All right, everyone. Can you guys see me and hear me? We seem to have lost Robert just now. We're going to get him back on in a few seconds. Just give me a minute to get him back on, and we will be with you again. Hi, Damara. Let me know that you can hear me okay. I'm just going to get. Hi, Shakira. Hi, Linda. We're just going to get Robert back online. We seem to have lost him for a second. We're going to get him back online. All right, everyone. Robert will be back with us in a short second. Hi, Trisha. Hi, Nkechi. Hi, Linda. Awesome. We'll be back. Thank you, Julian. We'll be back in just a second. Gotta love technology. All right, Robert is back with us. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
Perfect.
My question, up to what slide did you see a while ago? Did you see advertising?
Okay, yes, I did, but let me just check with the ladies to see what they were seeing. So could you guys confirm what was the last slide that Robert was on? We're going to pick right back up from there, and we'll be back in. Hey, Trisha. Hi, Julia. Thank you, Julia. Damara
Okay.
says this was
I'm
getting
going to ask you
so good,
to
Robert.
connect with me on WhatsApp. If you connect with me on
I'm
WhatsApp,
right
then I
here.
can get a little feedback.
I'm right here. But
Okay,
Damara is saying this was getting so good, Robert. So just to let you know, they were really into it.
fine.
Okay.
Absolutely. I just want to know where I need to start back from. Did you see the slide? Can you advertise? Does it pay
Okay.
to advertise? And can comment.
Okay. So Nkechi, Damara, guys, please confirm what slide you were on. I know that I saw advertising. I want to make sure you guys were on the same page, and we'll pick right back up from there. Damara is excited. Yes, we're back. Advertising. Cleopatra said she saw advertising. Nkechi said she didn't see advertising. So how about we start just before that, Robert? That'd be perfect.
I am so instructed and I will do just that.
Linda says dig your well. That's where she was at.
Okay.
Okay, awesome guys. We're gonna pick right back up. So here we go. We're gonna dive back in.
All right. Mentioned afford to advertise. Many companies who are spending money on media and they're catering to a market that may be 350,000 people. I use the example, I hope I'm not offending anyone, of the drive-through pharmacy. So they're advertising on radio. So persons in Morant Bay, persons in Portland, persons in Negril, Montego Bay is hearing about this. But I'm sure quite a lot of those persons who are hearing about that pharmacy will never get the opportunity to experience its service. Now, the reality is we should actually be focusing our message on that group. There was citizens, 350,000 people or so around it. So then how can we use networking? Networking is far more affordable. Networking is the opportunity to meet and actually build fantastic relationships with individuals. Yeah, so you will be meeting with the other business people, with the person there, and making that connection at far less cost, but far more effective. Because in your business, one of the things you have to think about is loyalty. How do I get people to come back over and over again? And that personal contact, it's research shows it, our own anecdotal experience shows that, and our own knowledge shows that is in fact the very best way to engage and keep loyal customers for life. In the slide, and line here is consider that everyone says, consider that every time someone says to you. Are you on that slide now, Danny? Are you seeing that one?
Yes, I'm seeing that one now.
All right. So consider that every time someone says to you, "What man? Me think you migrate." You get return switch. You don't remember poor people again, eh? Were you away? You still working on that place on Spanish Town Road? Every time someone says to you that, it means that a part of your network is dying. Now, research tells us that individuals will meet mid-career professionals, will meet up to 2,000 people, have had some level of relationship with 2,000 people up to the time you've reached to maybe your mid-30s, early 40s. In the Caribbean, maybe that's a little bit more because, small economies, you tend to know more people. But the research also shows that at any one time, you really only can establish or maintain relationships with 100 persons. Does that make sense? Do you see the challenge there? There is in fact a challenge. There is a challenge because it means that as you move to another organization or you have a larger role within your organization or you're doing something else, you're meeting another set of people and you're building relationships. But then part of those relationships may in fact be dying. So part of the things as we go through this program, we want to consider then we have 100 people that's active. But what about the previous 100 or 200 in the previous years in other experiences? These are rich relationships, important people that you've met. And having grown away, you realize the folly of your efforts when your daughter, or rather your helper's daughter, needs to go into a school and she's bright. And you know the principle of Holy Childhood or Immaculate, but you can't call her for the favor because you said, I can't just pick up the phone and call her because I haven't said a word to her for 5 years. And this sometimes is the downfall when we realize that as we forge ahead and building new relationships, we have to take care of the older relationships. Isn't that interesting?
Absolutely.
So we want to be on the lookout to ensure that we don't have parts of our network dying. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. I want to get to the meat of the matter, strategies. And I'm just going to jump out of the slideshow and go to the chat room to get a sense of what persons are experiencing and maybe any feedback at this point in time. All right.
Okay, so Damara says she does have a question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat, please?
Damara says she does have a question. So I'm just going to ask Damara, go ahead and type your question. Now would be a good time for that. Yeah. Shakira says, yes, very interesting. Peter Ann, go ahead and refresh. That may help you out a little bit. So Damara, you can go ahead now and insert your question. That will help you to get your question in. Now remember, if you have any other windows open at this time, make sure it's closed. You don't want to have anything competing with the stream. The fewer things you have open, the better the stream that you are going to be doing. Julia, absolutely. I'm going to give you a hashtag that you can use. Hashtag WeConnect. And if you tweet, we'll be able to keep track of your questions after the webinar via tweet as well. So hashtag WeConnect and then hashtag networking, and that will absolutely help us to follow. Are you on Twitter, Robert?
Yes, I am. I think I'm Robert Christopher Scott or something like that.
Okay, so we'll get you Robert's Twitter handle for sure. We'll follow up with that. My handle is Dana Nicole. So use that and we'll be able to follow up via tweeting tonight. So absolutely, Julia, thank you for that. So Damara, where is your question, my love? We're going to dive right into that. Leanne says she's excited to learn the strategies involved in all of what you have just set up so well. Robert, I know this is when I was getting hungry to say, wow, this was an aha moment for me. How many relationships have I been ignoring? especially my high school relationships. How many people have I not spoken to or not kept in touch with, and you feel cute even reaching out to them when you think, that would be a good person to reach out to, but you never really kept the relationship going. I know this was where I got hungry as well to say, wow, so what do I do? How do I fix this?
Now you're
So,
talking strategy number 8, so I'll just give a little teaser. The
okay,
fact of the matter is that
right.
look at our closest friends. Our closest friends are those whom we know from pretty much high school or prep school. Yeah?
Mhm. Mhm.
Those new friends, you see, those new friends, we kind of say, they're good friends. But the persons who know you from when you did fool, before you were new, as it were, right?
Yes, yes,
They know
yes,
they love you for who you are. And those are the persons who instinctively trust. And if you don't see them for 10 years and you meet them up again afterwards, you can almost restart. And
yes.
that's really an important point, you see?
Damara did post her question, and I think it's along these lines as well. She said you answered, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It says, I was going to ask about what if the people who said those things to you that indicate your network is dying. So those comments about, you migrate man, haven't seen you, that you don't necessarily need them for what you're doing right now. What about that?
Okay, that's an excellent question because, again, it puts into perspective why we're networking. Yes, we want to receive, but if we think about only the people we want to carry as those who can do something for us and everybody else is baggage, it's in a sense, it's a limiting way to live. And two, it's not about building for the future because you
Mm,
may be in sales today, tomorrow you may be in accounting. Yes? So the
right,
opportunity to many other persons, yes, the opportunity to reach out to many other persons is really, really what is important. And I can think about one awesome networker that I know. His name is Randy McLean. He's
right.
uh he is the executive branch manager with Sagicor. Now this guy has a big, thick, what we call it, book, one of those hardcover books that he puts in every name. He don't bother with the smartphone and the contact management. He uses that piece of paper because the battery, he doesn't need a battery for that big book.
Right.
But because of that, he becomes the go-to person. You want a plumber, you want an electrician, you need a doctor, you want an OB man. He has that person right there. And that is the benefit of networking because networking means that you can be a connector. And if I use the example here at Jampro, at certain levels when you're getting in business, when we're talking about bringing in a BP operation, it's not about your skill in marketing or sales. It's the opportunity to, if you can't do it, find somebody who can speak to the owner of Sutherland Global and have the conversation with them to say, come and set up an operation in Jamaica. And they
Mm-hmm.
have 500 and 1,000 persons getting jobs. So at certain levels of business, I kid you not, we forget the technical skills. It's your opportunity and your ability to speak with that person. You want to get something done, the Branson Center, that's on UTech. He didn't just come in here. It wasn't just some little person take up the phone and call him. You got to have somebody who could engage with him at that level and have
Right.
a conversation. And then we get into also things such as the power and influence. Who has influence and who has the power? And then who has the influence to you be able to get somebody to yield the power to get what you need to do. Yeah, that
Right.
really the power of operating business at extremely high levels. So, and one of the things you recognize is the person who is growing with you, yeah? The person who is growing. You'd be surprised where some of your alma mater from university or prep school or high school is. I understand one guy who we used to run around and say, Miss this, Miss that. He is now a chief player in the fashion industry overseas.
Mm.
Now, at one point in my said, John, I don't want to talk to him girly. Yeah. But then no, if you're in the fashion business, you're going to say, well, I hope him remember my name. Remember Robert Scott? Me kick off to you one day in third form. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I want to now move without further ado into the strategies. Can everybody see? Let's look at our strategies on the screen.
Okay. We're going to dive into that. So just to let everybody know, your questions that are there in the chat room, we will get back to them. So as we go through the webinar, we'll definitely get to your questions. So thank you for your feedback. And to answer your question, Peter, and yes, there'll be a replay. All right. So go ahead, Sir Robert.
Okay. So we're saying let's look at our strategies. Strategy number 1. Would you care to read that for me, please?
Have a networking plan for each event you attend. Intelligent networking can yield almost any result you wish to achieve, particularly if you start by thinking how to help others before your own cause.
I need I say more. This says it all. Intelligent networking. Yeah? Now, we other functions, I can tell you there was, when I just came to this job, I came straight from private sector. This is my first government assignment. And one of my goals was to understand the stakeholders. Now, one of the roles I play, I'm an honorary consul for Latvia, so I do get invited to all the diplomatic parties and so on. I'm on the list. But so I would know all of the ambassadors and so forth. But coming into government, I need to understand a lot of the other stakeholders. So I went to these cocktail parties in the Vengeance, and I can tell you there was in November last year. Over 14 days, I went to 15 cocktail parties. Now, I do enjoy cocktail parties, but we speak of intelligent networking. I needed to start to understand and meet and be able to build a relationship with the other persons. Remember what I said at the beginning, if you're not networked, then you don't have the ability to get your job done. So for example, one of the early people meet at a meeting is the head of the trade board, but when you go to the function, then it's an opportunity to talk and shoot the breeze a little bit. And when a particular exporter had an issue, I was able to find him on a Saturday morning. And it wasn't the jumper guy calling him, it was Robert, somebody who Robert knows. Yes, that I was able to get to him and sort out the situation, not for me, but for an exporter who was trying to get some products out of this country to really help this country to grow. So for me, my networking plan was to meet and understand and build a rapport with these stakeholders, because these people are going to be critical for me to succeed in this job. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Let's try the next slide. When we talk about a plan, yes, it's something necessarily that has to be written down, but it's really a process you want to sit down and think through this thing properly. So you get invited to a function, event, a party, whatever it is in the line of business that you're in, or it may not necessarily be in the line of business that you're in. Yes. Then one of the first questions you want to ask is, why am I going? It could be that you just want to have a break and this is fun. Not a problem with that. But then you also want to ask the question, what do I want to accomplish? And that's a different question. You're going for a reason, but then what do you want to accomplish? And I just became honorary consul and I just started going to all these functions. I said, okay, I wanted to build, and very, very soon, a few months after, actually, I got voted on to the executive. So the first thing I said, I wanted to build my relationship with other members of the executive. So now I went and made sure I know them names or the name pronounced, and then I started to meet with these individuals. And afterwards I said, okay, well, this thing, because we want to create necessary working relationships and so on, I need to meet all of these ambassadors. So then after a while, I knew them and somebody, I would even be on first name basis with some. But the other things you have to recognize that every 3 to 4 years, these people are changed. So you can't just say, okay, I network today, I'm going through a period of networking, and then I'll stop. Because in corporate entities, persons get moved around. I work for a multinational company that I managed the region for 10 years. So it's every 2.5 years or every 3 years, I'm getting a new managing director based in Puerto Rico, and I have to start all over. Now, if I had a bad relationship with one, then it is great when a new one comes along that I could fix things up. But at the same time, we recognize that it can't be static, or you can't do something today. The whole building networking and building a relationship with persons has to be ongoing and has to continue. And then the other question is, after you've identified what you want to accomplish, then the question is, who is likely to be there? And sometimes ties in, if you want to meet Mr. Branson because you have a project that you want to look at, then we want to go to places where he's likely to be. I must tell you that maybe I shouldn't be saying this in this forum, but there is a particular head of a particular agency who was an advisor to a particular prime minister, and he said that people would come and offer him thousands of US dollars to have a meeting with the prime minister. Now, obviously, I had no part of that, but it just shows the extent that people would go to have a conversation. But then again, if you follow the 8 precepts of this course, you would be able to build that very same relationship with the prime minister without having to want to fork out money and tread on the whole realm of corruption and so forth. Yeah. So who is likely to be there can also inform where you go, what you do, and what are your plans to accomplish. In some cases, you may say, I want to meet 5 or 10 new opportunities. Or you may say, I want to talk to the minister right now. This is the minister I need to talk to. Yes? Then a very important thing, what is the dress code? Now, this is something where in Jamaica, you'll have a man wearing a tuxedo, and the other time a man will have on a Bermuda shorts at the very same function, I kid you not. So we don't respect the dress code, but let me share with you. There's 2 reasons why you need to observe the dress code. The first reason is for you to fit in. How are you going to network? If everybody else is attired in a particular way, and you come in a total 100%, what you're different, you're saying that you really don't fit. Person may not even want to be seen talking with you. Well, that's an extreme case, but it does happen. So the first thing is to be able to fit. And the second reason, and even a more important reason I would like to believe, it allows you to feel comfortable. If you realize that you've miscalculated the dress code, that said business attire, and you go there in casual and tear jeans, you're not going to be up front there and looking to talk to no minister or anybody else. That's really just obvious. And again, remember an example of my former company when they had the 40th anniversary. They flew up the regional people and their spouses. So when I got the invite, I said, okay, going up to Puerto Rico. So I called HR and said, okay, what do you mean by informal? And HR did told me what she believes informal to be. Now, she picked me as far as I'm concerned. So I can't, pardon me, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but I thought it's great.
Go ahead.
And so I asked her, so then, how would Patrick be dressed? Patrick is the managing director. And she told me, how would the directors be dressed? In suits. So they would all be dressed in suits. So she said, well, informal, you can wear a jacket without a tie or what have you. They would be dressed in suits. So how we think I was dressed? In suit. But not only suit. Rather than wear a tie, I wore a cravat. I wore my yacht club blazer with the patch on the front and a cravat. So of course I look like one of those tycoons. So, we look trash. Now, my colleague from Honduras, she saw the thing informal, and what informal meant in Honduras was a nice white shirt or a nice shirt. So she came with her spouse. And, or should I say that everybody wore a suit of some sort. So when you look down there, the only person that had on a white shirt was her spouse and the waiters. Now, every time she saw somebody, she was apologizing. Oh, I didn't realize you're in suits, you're in suits. She sat in a corner table, herself and her husband and a few other people. She did not move. She felt so so embarrassed. And for me, that is a perfect, unfortunate example of what can happen when you miss a dress code. You don't adhere to or you misunderstand the dress code, you miss out on the opportunity to network. And of course, she lost 5 points or 10 for judgment. Then the other thing is, what is the topic of the day? At one of these cocktail parties, I was the chairman of a particular company and another executive. So we spoke about the minister, what the minister said in the newspaper. He was the chairman of one of the lead companies. He had his mouth open. What him did say? What him did say? So he lost again a few points. So what I'm really trying to say here, though, in going and having these conversations and networking with individuals, it must be au fait with the topic of the day. So it's good to read the newspaper. Read the newspaper each day before you go to any of these events. It's also not a bad idea to listen to the talk show, because then you understand where people's thinking are. So my personal example is that I don't like cricket. No, it's true. I may be the only heterosexual male in Jamaica who does not like cricket. Now, after a while, when men get together, they talk about the girls, they talk about business, and they also talk about cricket. So when they start to talk about cricket, me have to tiptoe and take out myself, tiptoe away and reverse from the conversation. After a while, I said, no, this don't make sense. So it just took for me to be following up and reading a few Sunday papers to get a sense and know who are the players and what is happening, and that Chris Gayle is this and this person is that person. It didn't take very long. But what it did mean is that now I was equipped with information that would allow me to be able to converse with my peers and others with whom I would like to network. Then will I be asked to say a few words? As a Toastmaster and someone who has had leadership roles in many organizations and so forth, I pretty much expect to be called upon to say a few words when I speak. Worse, I'm now a Jam Pro. It is expected. So what do? I make sure I prepare, because again, this is an opportunity when you're on show. So I make sure that I prepare. I have a few points. If it's a send off for someone, I automatically think in my mind, oh well, what is the impact this person has had on my life? One and two funny anecdotes. The contribution he has made to the organization, the contribution he has made to the industry. And I have those points rolling around in my head. So if someone says, let us now ask Robert to say a few words. Oh, really? Lay hands on no man suddenly, and then I go up there and I deliver something that seems almost polished, because I took the time to prepare. And what does this done? This helps brand Robert. You have brand Jamaica. Well, it is also important to build brand Robert, and that can be done on series of an entire another webinar. And then lastly, and perhaps of most importance, how can I be of service? There are times that you meet someone and when they find out what you do, you feel like you literally hear the gears turning in the person's head. You almost imagine the one who they want to get something from you. Oh, I believe in Santa Claus. Santa Claus gives before he receives. Santa Claus has really no interest in receiving. He's about giving, maybe like a milk and cookies. And if you recognize that, how we really help people, when you meet somebody, say, oh, you're in construction. Oh, yeah, oh, see another friend over there. He's in construction services, and you put people together. So yes, someone who's contributing the person, not one who is taking. I can tell you, the opportunist, people smell them a mile away. When they're coming towards you, you walk away. So that is the whole idea of planning when you're going to an event or a function. The other thing I want to look at now is strategy number 2, is that you must be an outstanding listener. It is a secret of being a great conversationalist. I remember a salesman I had once, early in my career, he said something that was profound. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should use them in that proportion. I have to consider that both fall in one of the 3 categories. We barely listen. We pretend to listen. We do not know how to listen. And I can tell you, and I recognize it in myself, persons are having a conversation. One person is just waiting to say their thing. Yes? So you're never really listening, you're just formulating what is it that you wanted to say. It doesn't work. And then there's the one-upmanship or the one-woman upship. And guys, I'm going to say something the last time people laugh. I hope nobody gets offended. But this is the reality. You have two persons there. And they'll say, oh, my Lord, it's hot. Just as hot as South Africa was this summer when I went there. And then the other person, not to be outdone, you think South Africa hot? You must consider Egypt, where I went last summer. And then the other person said something. Oh, Egypt, yes, I've been here. Did you go to the city of the dead? And the person said, no. You never go Egypt then, man. You never go Egypt. Oh, is that in fact networking? That's not networking. So I shared the female version of what happens. There's also the male version. And in fact, it's really, really no different. Now, what happened right there was one-upmanship. There was no real listening. What persons are measuring who is bigger and who is of more influence. So the score for that one would in fact be 0. I'll read something here, and I'm going to put it onto the slide. Are you seeing the other slide now, listening?
Yes.
If you're still not convinced that listening is a better communication skill than talking, try this experiment. The next time you're with a bunch of people at a party or a special event, do your best to listen intently. Stroke your chin and say, I see, when someone makes a point. Occasionally, squint your eyes and go, when another person says something interesting. Ask questions rather than make statements. If you keep this up, we guarantee that at the end of the evening, you will be considered by everyone to be the most thoughtful and dynamic person in the room. You'll also appear incredibly wise. And this is from the book, God is in the small stuff, and it is all that matters. So what I'm trying to say here, folks, is that we really ought to do more listening. Persons feel that by speaking and talking about their accomplishments is what really makes a good impression and makes you want to be someone's friend, and possibly at one level. But it reminds me of the story where the young lady said, oh, I'm marrying John. The friend said, what? But you said Jack. Jack was a person who was the most important person. She said, yes, but John makes me feel as the most important person. So one of the key elements about networking is first we mentioned, and we spoke extensively about being of service to the other person. But what is more important here, or what is as equally important, is how you make the other person feel. Now, when you tell me about the trips to South Africa and Egypt, and I've never gone beyond Port Royal, that doesn't really make me feel very, endearment. I'm more grudgeful and bad mind against you. Really wanting to endear you and bring you within my network. So part of it is letting another person really feel genuinely appreciated. And the number one way of expressing your appreciation to someone is by listening, not even with flattery and so forth. It's really just by listening. Now, we listen, removing distractions. Now, I'm an old man, yes. So I consider bad manners when I'm talking to somebody. I'm seeing them head top because I'm playing with them smartphone. Even when they say, I'm listening to you, I'm listening to you, they are being distracted and they're not getting the content and the sense of what I'm attempting to communicate. So they may think that they're earning points, but they're really not. Then also we are bad. We interrupt each other incessantly. This is also a bad habit I have. And I'm really trying to work it through. But you see, when you interrupt, you do a number of things. You cut the person's flow. And what you're also saying is that what you're saying is not really important. What I have to say is far more important. And ladies, we have some people who has a habit of saying, but not only that, you make a point. And they say, but not only that, and they make their point as if to truly diminish your point. So there are a lot of things we do that really don't ourselves to other persons. And then the whole thing about the biases. There are some persons who have bad body language. When we're speaking with persons and we're saying, we have the making of the face, and there are some people who have what I call the waiter voice. So we're talking and we're talking nice and so on. And then when the waiter comes and says, bring a bottle of spring water for me, and in a totally different tone. What you're actually doing is communicating a bias, or you're saying that you are inferior to me. And in every single sense, it is communicated to the person. You may not have that intention of doing it, but it is what is communicating. And then, of course, giving our full attention to persons. Put away the cell phone. If person's in your office and you're having a meeting, put on the do not disturb. They said that there's nothing more making someone looking more charismatic than giving that really attention. And then, of course, what is so important, knowledge what they're saying, what they're feeling. I am getting that feedback again. Is there anything we can do about the feedback?
It should go in a minute. I'm not hearing any feedback on your end.
Yeah, I'm here myself. Okay. So
we're not hearing feedback on this end. Go ahead.
The other thing is knowledge. Is your headphone plugged in?
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure what's happening. But let me continue. Important to acknowledge what someone is saying. So it's not just about okay, you had a bad experience. It's about having understand you had a bad experience. And that works. Now, strategy number 3. What I want to do is jump out to any questions. You can share those. Am I coming across clearly to everyone still?
I can hear you now. You were breaking up just a little bit. So I heard you say that a while ago you want to take some feedback.
Yes, if there are any questions or even comments.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I just lost view of the chat room. Can you see the chat room on your end, Robert?
Mm-hmm.
My side of my screen just went blank.
Mm-hmm.
You have to love technology. So if you can see the chat room, you can just read any questions in the time being while I see if I can get the chat room to view my end again.
Well, what I'm saying, I'm seeing some interesting communications. I'm seeing some interesting communication. And okay, Shakira is hearing the feedback. I'm hearing that feedback. Okay. You sure that Shakira is hearing the feedback? I'm hearing that feedback.
Yes, I do have my headphones in. The only other option for me to get rid of the feedback is if I refresh the Hangout again, which could be at the risk of losing you and you having to rejoin.
No,
so if we want to do that to get rid of the feedback, it would take a few seconds, but I could do that as an option.
No, let's
hearing it on your end, Robert?
Perhaps I should jump out and jump back in.
All right, let me do that.
Sorry?
Let me do that really quickly. I'm just going to refresh the chat, the connection, and that should fix everything. So guys, you're going to see us disappear just for a quick moment, but we'll be right back.
Okay. Are you there? Are you there? Yeah, it's saying waiting for people to join this video call. So I should come out or wait here in it. I'm in it. Okay. All right, cool. How is it going so far? Okay. What's the hashtag for the comment? Oh, so okay, so I'll say that on Twitter. Okay. Alrighty. Let me jump off the phone then.